Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the digital asset investor, and this whole travel ball thing is crazy. My son, my youngest, was playing until like 9 or 9:30 last night and didn't get home till 10:30, and then he has a practice this morning. I mean, it's like these guys play more games than the major leagues do. It's crazy. Or at least they play more consecutive games than the major leagues do. Today in the group, we're going to talk. You keep hearing that this is the new cycle, and that crypto's always been retail, but now it's been institutional. In the group, I'm going to show you what I think that looks like, exactly what that looks like, and what's going to change in this space. Now, we're having tomorrow. I'll show you in a minute. Tomorrow, the Senate's supposed to weigh in on the Genius Act, and I believe that crypto is starting to pump a little bit, and it's probably because of that. Because once it passes the Senate, the House is going to be easy, and the President's going to be easy. It'll be a done deal. So I give you a warning. I give you a lot of warnings. Anytime if we head into bull runs in crypto, the scams ramp up. And there's several types of scams that I see it every day. And here's some of the red flags, okay? Promises of anybody you see that's promising things that seem too good to be true, or promising, everything for everybody, they have the solution. Red flag, watch out. Urgency and FOMO when they're doing the old act now or limited window of time or any of this kind of stuff, watch out. Unverified and anonymous teams, that's a big one too. I've seen a lot of that. Of course, the phishing and the fake websites, and of course, never give your private keys to anyone. A lot of people out there want to keep doing the self-custody. That's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's not where this industry is going. I don't use self-custody anymore. I've got some at Caleb & Brown and some at one other place I'm going to go over this week. Caleb & Brown has institutional custody through Fireblocks. And if anybody tells you that they don't, they're not telling the truth. I spoke to the guys at Caleb & Brown this week about it. And they were like, yeah, we've never lost a cent of anybody's money. They've been in business since 2016. I watched them for at least the last 3 years before even talking to them about working with them in any way, but I'm just an affiliate. You can go to xrpwealth589.com if you'd want to sign up for an account. Click the sign up today. Here's what we have. We're looking at a 226 XRP. XRP is on the move, up 4.29% in the last 24 hours. Crypto Wizard says explosion brewing. It's brewing. XRP falling wedge maturing soon. It'll have a bullish breakout targeting 280, the major bull level. Patience pays. And then this is that Genius Act. The final Senate vote on the Genius Act is tomorrow. So strap in, lock in, whatever you want to do, however you want to lock in. Now, Peter Schiff is not going to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you. Listen to what he says here, and then I'll tell you.
You can have the functionality of Bitcoin with gold, except better, cheaper, and faster. Because,
solving gold's transportability problem. Remember, can't tokenize anything on Bitcoin. Where can you tokenize it? The XRP Ledger. You can tokenize both Bitcoin, it would be XBTC, and tokenize gold, call it XAU. On the XRP Ledger, Peter Schiff knows this, but he won't talk about it because the Bitcoin people have welcomed him in the fold. They put him on stage. So his job is to be the counterpoint to all the Bitcoin people, and for whatever reason, they like that. Maybe it's because it makes their movement look like you get to see both sides. But that's not both sides. Saying anti-Bitcoin or pro-Bitcoin is not both sides. There's another side. The other side is, wait a minute, no, Bitcoin's great, gold's great, but there's one thing that solves both of their problems. Gold's transportability problem, Bitcoin's slow, expensive, unscalable problem. That's the XRP Ledger. Those are the guys they won't put on stage at Bitcoin.
Anybody can custody gold, and if you want to tokenize it and issue tokens that represent ownership of that gold, you can buy the token, which means you own the gold, but you can transact in the token. So I can send tokens or receive tokens, and I can buy goods and services or get paid for providing services or producing goods. I can be paid in gold. I can price my products in gold, and we can transact with each other instantaneously using our cell phones or text messaging. And the gold doesn't have to go anywhere. The gold just sits in a vault and acts as a basis for all these transactions.
Okay, we need to remember, against that backdrop, remember what Greg Kidd said on stage. This guy was at Ripple from the beginning.
I've never seen in all my time since being in payments, in crypto, the planets aligned as well as they are now.
He called it Moses coming down when he discovered Ripple.
And so amazing things are happening. We couldn't be more excited to be able to finally take everything that's on the ledger has a crypto address and a bank account routing number. Mm-hmm. It's not like there's this and this and they, it's one ledger, dual addressed. It's like in the old days, they used to have CDMA and GSM phone. Somebody finally said, why don't you just make the phones do both? Or 110 volt, 220. Now everything is one thing, but the ledger of record, make no mistake, is a crypto ledger like the XRP Ledger.
Mm-hmm. Ah, huge. And then this is the Blackrock COO. What do you think he's talking about?
What advice would you give to, sort of the rest of the financial universe that are thinking about getting into this space now?
It's a great question. I think from our lens, it's what I'm going to say is going to be very simple. Executing it is extremely hard. So I recognize that. But to us, it's very basic. You basically have a new set of exposures. Mm-hmm. The real utility in Unlock is to be able to put them in the whole portfolio. And interestingly enough, I think you could turn the telescope around also and say, ultimately, how do you put these capital markets exposures in digital wallets? And how do you go? So if you think about the bridge strategy of this alternate digital asset universe and bringing it to the capital markets, I think it's naive to assume, and this doesn't have to be in a month, but if you look out over time, it's naive to assume that you don't also have to think through how do you bring the traditional capital markets to this alternative universe. And I think both
you swallow them
connection points will define the next decade.
I couldn't agree more. And the best example of it, by the way, was the ETFs. So we got all thrown a curveball in the last minute. There were no in-kind creates. And so we were forced to try and figure out how to make old world meet new world, right? And so hopefully in the next version thereof, we're going to have more of a synthesis of those two things. So yeah, you're spot on. I agree with that.
You're darn right he's spot on. It's coming. Now, Charles Hoskinson has been saying some interesting things.
I'd love for Cardano Midnight to be the DeFi layer of the XRP ecosystem, so they can stay and continue to be XRP, but then they can get much better yields for their holders and for Ripple itself, the company that created XRP.
Now, this subject of yields, folks, I'm telling you, be careful. Anybody that's promising you yield on XRP right now, I think it's going to change here shortly. But talking about getting yield right now is a semi-red flag, because yield, I'll put it this way: if somebody's talking about yield, you need to dig deeper and ask them, okay, well, how am I getting yield? Dig a lot deeper. because until there's a real good explanation, and what's my risk? Am I risking all my XRP? Am I risking the loss of all my XRP? What's the risk? Am I in possession of the XRP that's getting yield? That's a big one. Okay, and then here, folks, they're all saying it.
Why is this cycle different than the 3 cycles before? Because this one's going to be institutional led, not retail.
Now, that's what we're going to talk about in the group, is what does that mean? And Matt Hogan also, he's talking about the end of the 4-year cycle, which is basically him saying the same thing.
4-year cycle? Is it over?
Yeah.
Woo.
It's over.
Okay, hold on. Explain.
Well, I mean, so my view of the 4-year cycle is you have a catalyst that brings new pools of capital in. So 2011, it was the launch of Coinbase. Retail investors could buy Bitcoin, new capital, then leverage builds up and eventually it pops. 2015, the introduction of Ethereum. 2019, DeFi. 2023, it was Grayscale winning its lawsuit in March against the SEC. We're going to get ETFs bringing in capital. The reason I think it's probably not going to play out over 4 years is I think that's a longer inflow of capital than retail hot ball of money, which was the past 3. And then secondly, we have yet another of those catalysts in November, which is the election completely changing the game in terms of institutional adoption. So even if the ETF-driven cycle would have built up, leveraged, and popped and receded, we have this second tidal wave that's just so much bigger than that first one. It's going to overwhelm it. So will there be, pullbacks? We're seeing one now as leverage comes out of the system, of course. But the election was such a sea change that it's like, it doesn't matter. Yes, there may be this natural thing, but it's just going to get bulldozed over. That doesn't mean we've repealed pullbacks, but I think this cycle is going to be much longer than people think. I definitely don't think this pullback is the end. I think 2025 will be a great year. I think 2026 will be a great year. I think 2027 will be a great year. And we'll see about 2028.
I think he's 1,000% right. And second tidal wave is right, but it's the real tidal wave. Everything you've seen in this market has been because of Bitcoin and for a while Ethereum's fake regulatory clarity, while everything else was out in the gray area. You haven't seen the real market yet. Once you have the legislation, you will see the real market. It was also said with Monica Long here.
What do you... So I also think another big shift from 2016 to today is more openness from major institutions of using public blockchains. Like when you and I were talking to banks back in the 10 years ago time frame. I mean, it was like intense fear and just reticence to go onto public chains. That's really changed. So what do you think? What do you see as the important capabilities or factors that institutions need to see to go onto public blockchains?
Yeah, I think, back then, to be fair to institutions, I guess, the maturity of the infrastructure typically wasn't there.
Sure.
And the education that was required, people just didn't get it, right? You need a couple of years, you need a couple of cycles for it to start to click. And I think, honestly, Ripple did a phenomenal job as being part of that education, because I feel like Ripple was the first blockchain to really go for the institutions and say, guys, this is 24/7 movement of value, get with the program. So you were very much ahead of your time, I shall say. But clearly, institutions now are coming on board because I think in part, the technology has proven to be sufficiently robust and quite frankly better in many regards than what a lot of institutions can offer. A lot of the existing TradFi banks look at stablecoins 24/7 value movement and say, whoops, my systems can't support that.
Yeah.
And it is not going to take that long for them to do the same thing when they look at on-chain stocks and ETFs and you name your asset, right? And so I think right now there's really a turning point in how they look at the technology, how robust it is with the ongoing regulatory clarity. The level of adoption and quite frankly, in some instances, FOMO that we're seeing from institutions is pretty significant.
Yeah, it's going to. Now, what does, we hear it all the time, but what are these institutions going to do? How's it going to look? Retail versus institutional, which is what we're going into. How do institutions look at things versus retail? That's what we're going to talk about in the group. This market is going to look totally different. in good ways for XRP, in my opinion. We're going to talk about that. Go to daixrp.com to join the Patreon, or click the join button below any of my YouTube videos if you'd rather join through YouTube. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Away we go.